ran on something to get elected.
What was your policy platform?
So we actually have election campaigns happening. I've toured to various Tibetan settlements based in India, asking the people to support me, giving me promises like any other politicians. But my promises usually focused on the Tibetan freedom movement and my role as a Tibetan activist. And apart from that, making sure that the voices of the youth and voices of women and different voices that we feel our community need to raise is raised through my platform. And so this is how we actually have debates happening. But last term, that was in 2021, it wasn't as vibrant entirely because of China COVID. But we were still able to go on ground and have our campaign and plead people to support me. So we do have those.
So when you create policy as parliament, is it policy related to the Tibetan freedom movement? Is it policy related to Tibetans living in exile? Is it policy related to the future of Tibet?
All of them. What we have as policy for the future of Tibet is what we call the middle way approach, where we hope that we would resolve the Tibet-China conflict through a meaningful dialogue, seeking a genuine autonomy under the Constitution of China. So this is what has been come through the referendum that we've had with the people back more than 10 years back. So we haven't had any review of that so far, which I feel as an individual, as a legislative, as a lawmaker, it's crucial. It's high time, especially when we're looking into what CCP has been doing so far, and especially when we're looking into what is happening around the world and how we are viewing China. So I believe that it's high time that that changes, that there's an amendment on that. Other than that, the kind of policies we focus on is like education policy, like different, we have got rules and regulations. We have got what we call a charter, not a constitution, and how, the amendments that we need for that. So we've got many issues that we discuss on and amendments that we need for now and then.
So you mentioned the Tibetan freedom movement and the Tibetan Independence movement. Yeah. Are those the same thing? Are they different?
Those are very different, because when we are talking about seeking complete independence of Tibet, it's on the basis of the fact that Tibet as a nation had been an independent nation that was illegally occupied by Chinese Communist Party, and that as per the international law of self-determination, we want us to be free. And we are more than happy to be a cool neighbor with China, but nothing more or less than that. But when it comes to the middle way approach, what it is looking for, of course, the base is same, that Tibet had been an independent nation, however, occupied territory under Chinese Communist Party. But what we seek for future is something different, to be under the Constitution of China, seeking a genuine autonomy, pretty much like what is happening in Hong Kong right now, or perhaps less. We are demanding less than that. So we all have different opinions. I personally believe that, the only way to assure peace and prosperity and decorum around the world is for Tibet to be independent, nothing less than that.
Now, if, let's say, somehow Tibet does gain its independence and the government exile becomes the actual government of Tibet, this is like Avatar: The Last Airbender. What happens to all of the ethnic Chinese who have, in some cases, been living in Tibet for generations now?
So I think as independent activists, we have many discussions about it. And I had a different opinion back when I was younger. But I think as I age, as I continue to work with the people, I believe that something like that is not possible for me to imagine that I'll kick out all the Chinese. I don't see that's possible. So what as some of us, we always discuss, that's not part of the policy of a Tibetan government in exile, because we are seeking something else. But us as Tibetans seeking complete independence, we believe that, we will have to find a means of engaging ourselves with those Chinese within the territory of Tibet right now. If they, as individuals, wish to be called citizens of Tibet, they should be given an option about it. If they wish to associate themselves as Tibetans and not Chinese, but ethnically, of course, they're Han. So if they want to associate like that, we'll have to find a means to be able to do that for future of Tibet and to be able for them to experience democracy for the first time ever. So I think it'll be certainly challenging, but this is what the future will seek.
Since Buddhism has such a powerful impact on Tibet, how do you think the religion would inform the kind of, I don't know if forgiveness is the right term, but the fact that there will be these tensions between these ethnically Chinese Han people in Tibet who some Tibetans will have lots of reason to be resentful and angry towards.
Absolutely. Forgetfulness and forgiveness is something that I always have dilemma on and I ponder upon, actually. There are times when we are, we are sitting there and seeking teachings of different lamas, including His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and we feel like the urge that, okay, maybe we need to do that to move on, right? So it's so easy to say that you need to forgive to move on. But when you are on an actual spot, somebody like I don't think that I'm reincarnation of any high lamas, that it's going to be easy for me to forgive. But for us to find a space, I feel like right now we're in a tight spot, especially when the freedom movement is going on. We feel like there is no repentance whatsoever from the Chinese Communist Party. They completely deny all the atrocities that they are committing, all the torture that they are committing on the Tibetan people and our other allies, including the Uyghurs and Southern Mongolians and the Hong Kongers and what they're doing right now in Taiwan. So while all these things are going on, I don't see why I should be magnanimous enough to say, I forgive you. I can't. It won't be easy. But I've learned to be big enough to know that I can adjust myself as a good neighbor of China in future. This is something that I can compromise myself to. I don't think I can go beyond that.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges is not just that part of it, but if you look at the borders of Tibet, right? So the way the Chinese Communist Party drew the borders, there's the Tibet Autonomous Region. But historical Tibet and the populations of Tibetans living under the PRC, like probably half the Tibetan population that's in China is on like the Tibetan Plateau that's part of, it's like Gansu Province, Qinghai, Sichuan, and Yunnan Province, right? Like that's not within the borders of the Tibet Autonomous Region. So then how, even if the Tibetan government was able to get back to Tibet as defined by the Communist Party, it's also like, that's not even the whole country, really. So there's going to be like border wars over...
Yeah. So if I interject to that, what we are seeking as Jinin autonomy is the actual Tibet. That's the entire Tibetan plateau that consists of all the 3 traditional regions of Tibet, which today is the so-called Tibetan Autonomous Region, Gansu, Yunnan, Sichuan. So all these regions. So it's not just the so-called Tibet Autonomous Region. It's the entire Tibet, the actual Tibet. And I think that is where, from the CCP side, the problem begins. They want us every time to, first of all, accept that Tibet had been part of China, right? And when we, after that, to accept that that's the only Tibet. And after that, this is how, compromise after compromise, this is how they want us to go upon. But the reality is, we can't have a dialogue, a true dialogue, if we don't begin from truth. So I think this is where I have my questions and doubts about the middle way approach, because we have had many dialogues with our counterparts, but have we have any concrete result out of it? We haven't had. It's just the faith from our side, which is entirely because of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, who believes that, okay, there can be a result out of it because of who he is. He chose to believe in, even our enemy. I don't shy away from calling CCP our enemy. And he still believes that, they should be given opportunity. We should feel sorry. We should feel compassionate about it. But I feel as a human being myself, it's difficult for me to feel that way, right? So, this is where the problem begins with middle way approach. Because we'll have to shun the reality, past reality of Tibet and accept that Tibet is part of China. No. If we don't, they won't have dialogue with us. So how do we have dialogue with Chinese Communist Party and its leadership? So that's where I start having doubt about the middle way approach.